Welcome to ILTV's Israel Daily. I'm Aaron Porras.
And I'm Natasha Kirchak. Coming up in today's newscast, rocket alerts are reported across southern Israel.
A 9,000-year-old discovery has been made near Haifa that may carry a dire message.
And we'll reveal which NBA team Israeli coach David Blatt is about to join.
Rocket alerts have been reported across the south Thursday morning as Palestinian terrorists in the Gaza Strip fire a rocket towards the community of Sderot.
The alarms rang out just after 2:30 in the morning on Thursday, giving residents less than a minute to wake up and get to the shelters. But thankfully, the Iron Dome defense system launched into action and intercepted the attack, preventing serious injury or damages. Hours later, in response, though, Israeli air forces then reported bombing a Hamas weapons factory in Gaza.
But again, no injuries have been reported in Gaza either. And Israel has also announced the restriction of Gaza's fishing zone to 10 nautical miles. It's not yet clear what terror group is responsible for the morning rocket fire, but Israel holds the Hamas terror organization accountable for any attacks emanating from the Strip, as Hamas is the governing entity.
Now, in related news, Israeli security forces have now announced the arrest of around 50 terror group members across Judea and Samaria, or the West Bank, in recent months. This has been the scene across multiple areas in the Palestinian Authority, as Israeli security forces arrest dozens of members of the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, or PFLP terror group. And according to the Shin Bet, the raids have been conducted across several months and have helped prevent a number of significant planned attacks. In fact, many guns and bomb-making materials like fertilizer, metal ball bearings, and fuses were seized during the arrests. And indictments have already been filed against the majority of the suspects in question. Now, the PFLP has fallen somewhat into obscurity in recent years as Hamas, Islamic Jihad, and other terror groups in the region become more active. But the Popular Front first rose to infamy in the late 1960s and 70s for a series of armed attacks and aircraft hijackings. They've also claimed responsibility for several suicide bombings during the Second Intifada. But Israel began a renewed targeting of the group after the August 23rd bombing near Dolev, in which Israeli teen Rina Schnell was killed and her father and brother were seriously wounded. And in accordance with the recent raids, the IDF has also begun plans to demolish the homes of several PFLP members suspected of involvement in that attack.
Moving on, history is in the making as the United States adopts articles of impeachment against President Trump. This makes him the third president in United States history to be impeached, following Presidents Andrew Johnson in 1868 and Bill Clinton in 1998.
But there is still a long road ahead for Trump's opponents who want to remove the president from office. And joining us now with the details is former Deputy National Advisor in Israel, Professor Chuck Freilich. Now, Professor, what comes next here, and what is the impact going to be on Israeli-American relations?
Well, I think Israel is a country whose national security is intimately linked to American national security, to American standing in the world. And at a time when the United States is consumed with its own domestic affairs and it is weakened by the impeachment process, then Israel is weakened by it by extension. We will have a president who is totally preoccupied with his own personal affairs, with his political and legal battle, with trying to prevent his name from being irreversibly besmirched. And it's an election year in any event. And so the president's ability to focus on the issues that are critical to Israel, Iran, peace process, Hezbollah, Hamas, etc., all those issues he'll be able to give only less, if any, attention to.
Now, what about the Israeli response? Have any Israeli officials responded to this news? What would you say?
Not to my knowledge, and I would hope very much that they don't. This is a purely American affair, and other than wishing the American legal and political system well, I don't think any Israeli politician should take any position on this.
All right, now Trump has been largely viewed by many as the most pro-Israel president in modern memory. So will that maybe have some blowback the other way now? Is the opposition going to take that and say, well, if President Trump is supposedly corrupt or whatever, is that pertinent to his good deeds, so to speak, in Israel?
Well, I would dispute the characterization. Yes, in some areas he's been good for Israel, in some areas he has not. No peace process is not good for Israel. No deal with Iran and no deal to replace it, and a maximal pressure campaign, which in itself maybe is a good thing, but isn't achieving the desired outcome so far, that's also not a good thing. So how good is a question to be discussed. It will certainly be, his ability to deal with the issues will be affected by how things go in the next year.
Dr. Freilich, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, now attention all Israelis. If you have a trip to or even through Russia in the near future, you may want to be careful. That's because now, in addition to the imprisonment of Naama Issachar, dozens of Israeli civilians have just been detained in Moscow.
An official Russian delegation is arriving in Israel Thursday for a round of annual diplomatic talks, but tensions are high surrounding the outcome of the meet, as jailed Israeli-American Naama Issachar is at the top of the list for discussion, especially as her attempt to appeal her conviction in Russian court today ended in rejection. This also comes just a day after 46 Israelis, including young children, were detained for questioning in Moscow airport with no given reason. Well, the Israeli Foreign Ministry says it will seek clarifications and explanations regarding the detentions too. Some lasted as long as 6 hours. Passports were confiscated, and some passengers were even interrogated in Russian with no translation. And last week, 8 Israeli businessmen were also held overnight in a Russian airport and then deported back to Israel. So pending the results of Thursday's discussions, Israel's officials say that they will review putting restrictions on travel to Russia in the future. But as for 26-year-old Naama Issachar, it's been 9 months since the backpacker's detention began in Russia. She was arrested for roughly 9 grams of cannabis in her checked luggage as she was stopping over in Moscow on the way home to Israel from India. And independent Israeli groups, celebrities, and officials, including Prime Minister Netanyahu, have all vowed to return her home, as she's largely suspected of being a political prisoner. Again, though, Russian courts have now rejected Issachar's appeal at a hearing earlier Thursday. And some officials in Israel say the recent public statements may have had something to do with it. Speaking with Channel 12 on Wednesday, an unnamed senior Israeli authority says that Russians prefer to do things behind closed doors, and so making a sensitive issue into an internal political campaign may have ended up hurting her more than it helps. Whatever the case, though, the fight to bring Naama home is far from over.
In 8 years' time, it's estimated that 1 in every 5 Israeli Jews will be Haredi or ultra-Orthodox. And so with this growing population and another election in mind, issues of religion and state are becoming more and more pressing. Well, joining us now to discuss is Dr. Gilad Malach from the Israel Democracy Institute. Thank you so much for being with us. Now, what are the main issues at the heart for Haredi voters going into 2020 elections?
I think that there are some issues connected to the community, meaning their budget, meaning the question of serving in the army or not serving, getting an exemption from serving in the army. These are inner issues, and there are some issues connected to the state of Israel and things like keeping Shabbat or not keeping Shabbat, things like that. And they also fighting the parties, the political parties, also the ultra-Orthodox political parties are fighting for that.
Well, so I want to maybe flip the question. What do the Haredi parties and the secular parties have in common that is not likely to change ahead of 2020?
Especially regarding to question of right-wing and left-wing, the ultra-Orthodox political party became right-wing in their point of view, and they were part of the bloc, of the right-wing bloc at the current Knesset, and they are going to continue to be part of this bloc, unless something unpredicted will be happen.
Are we seeing any changes within the Haredi community when it comes to the issues that matter to them? Because, you know, we are seeing polls that show that Israeli society as a whole is becoming more and more secular. And an example of that is, you know, the public transportation that we're now seeing on Saturdays and the fact that there was so much public support for that. So is that having any impact on these communities?
The point is that As you mentioned, there is very dramatic demographic growth within the Haredi community, but still the majority of Israel is secular, and the seculars are more secular than their parents regarding to questions of private or having buses on Shabbat or free marriage and things like that. So the clash now is even more hard than it used to be 10, 20 years ago, and especially if we are talking about Shabbat and transportation on Shabbat, the fact that it took place at the last 1 or 2 months make a question for the next government how to handle with this situation, because the ultra-Orthodox will demand to stop it.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, it was interesting what you said, that the secular are becoming more secular and farther away from religion, which is something that we haven't actually thought about. But, you know, if you could just quickly answer, Kahol and Levan, the blue and white party, they're now trying to move closer to these ultra-Orthodox communities, even though they've been, you know, the secular party. What is your take on this, and is that even possible?
The point is that one portion of this party is Yesh Atid party, which is very secular in its attitude. And also in the campaign, at the previous campaign, they focused on the secular voter, and they talked about, they said, we are going to have a secular government. But this time they understand that maybe their chance to have a coalition might go through cooperation with the ultra-Orthodox parties. So there is a chance that they will take it more light than the previous election.
I think compromise is something that pretty much everybody in the country wants in some fashion. Dr. Menach, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you very much.
All right, it's finally happening. The long-awaited fast train between Jerusalem and Tel Aviv is opening on Saturday night. And to put into perspective what a big deal this is, it's been under construction for 18 years. Now, this direct line between Israel's two major metropolitan centers is called the King David Track, and it's expected to deliver passengers in about 30 minutes when it's fully operational. Now, today, driving from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem can take up to an hour and a half because of the traffic.
And so if you're wondering how it's possible that the commute is so much shorter given the mountains surrounding Jerusalem, well, the train cuts right through the mountainous highlands in a steady downward slope towards the coastal plain, an engineering achievement for Israel. The train line is actually made up of 5 long tunnels and 8 bridges, too.
The highest one is nearly 100 meters above the ground, setting the record as the highest bridge in Israel. That's a fun fact.
Exactly, and Israel has spent an estimated $2 to $2.6 billion on this project, 4 times higher than originally planned. But apart from making travel between Tel Aviv and Jerusalem much shorter, the government hopes that it will enormously strengthen Jerusalem's economy because of the easier commute for locals and tourists alike.
Now, the line is limited to just 400 passengers per run, but starting on Sunday, December 22nd, the train service will run every 30 minutes in both directions, except at night.
Very exciting.
I know. I'm very excited about this. I want to take it. Imagine being able to take the first train ever in Israeli history between Tel Aviv and Jerusalem that is 30 minutes.
Maybe we should do it.
Okay. December 22nd. All right, now a new archaeological discovery may be a chilling reminder that we have something to learn from ancient mankind. The oldest seawall in history has been discovered near Haifa, and the 9,000-year-old finding reveals some of the scary threats locals were dealing with. ILTV's Nittany Manson reports.
Storms, hurricanes, tsunamis. It's hard to control nature, and as modern sea levels rise more and more every year, the world is experiencing coastal erosion that has the potential to displace millions of people. Now, a 9,000-year-old seawall has just been discovered off the coast of Haifa, suggesting that people during the Neolithic period were also trying to protect themselves from the same kind of natural disasters. The ancient seawall is located at the underwater archaeological site of Tel Aviv, which is a Neolithic settlement that thrived from around 7,500 to 7,000 BCE. Apparently, the wall was built to stave off ever-rising seawater from melting glaciers. It's the oldest known coastal defense system in the world. Residents built it by carrying massive boulders from riverbeds near their village, boulders weighing between 200 and 1,000 kilograms each. Sadly, the extreme measure to protect the Neolithic village didn't pay off, and locals were forced to abandon their homes. Apparently, during the Neolithic era, people living near the Mediterranean experienced a sea level rise of around 70 centimeters in 100 years, something not too far off from what humans today are experiencing. And with seaside properties still very much in demand around the world, we may need to think twice about how we're protecting ourselves. This 9,000-year-old Neolithic seawall may not have worked out, but at least it has lasted.
All right, guys, starting in the fall of 2020, students will be offered the incredible opportunity to study both with the prestigious Tel Aviv University and the Ivy League Columbia. Well, joining us now with more information is our guest professor, Ra'anan Rein, the vice president at Tel Aviv University. So tell us about this program and when is it supposed to start and why didn't I have the opportunity to do this?
Okay, you might still have the opportunity, but this is a very exciting program. We are thrilled about it, and we get so many comments and reactions from all over the world that this is something fantastic. The idea is to have a joint program. Students will start and study for 2 years in Tel Aviv and then move for 2 years to New York. And by the end of the 4 years, they will get a BA degree from Tel Aviv University and a college degree from Columbia University.
So you have an Ivy League degree, but you get to hang out near the beach in Tel Aviv.
Well, and you get 2 degrees.
Yeah,
so
well,
you
why?
get an Ivy League degree.
Here's what's interesting, though. Why does the program start in Tel Aviv and not in New York? Why? It's just interesting that would be the choice.
The idea is to offer a wide variety of courses to all students during the first and second year, and then let them choose a major for the
back
third
in New York.
Yeah,
Got it.
Right,
Okay.
right.
So what courses are available, and maybe what are some of the more popular ones that you're getting some feedback for ahead of the fall semester?
Well, in order to make this program more attractive, the courses we offer are not only courses in the humanities and the social sciences, but include also life sciences, include courses on innovation and entrepreneurship. Israel is the startup nation, and this is very attractive. And we get already applications from students in Asia, in Europe, in Latin America, obviously in the US.
So the first class will be in 2020, right?
The first class will start in less than a year, in about 10 months from now.
Can you still apply?
You can still apply until you still have time until March of the coming year.
Oh, wow.
And we hope to start with the first cohort of some 30 students and make sure that they have...
30, that's it?
Yeah.
Wow.
The competition is tough,
because the idea is to tailor-made the program for each and every student, make sure they are very happy about it and excited about it as we are. And then hopefully have, within a few years, more than 100 each year.
Absolutely. All right, well, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so upset that I didn't have this opportunity when I was 18.
Next semester. Next
semester. We'll see. All right. Now, for people struggling with physical and mental disabilities, it's not always easy to get a job. An incredible Israeli organization called Kelev Tov is helping tackle this issue with dogs. And I went out to meet one of the wonderful women whose lives has been changed because of it.
Yeah, I had friends, I had a job. I was a lifeguard in the Army too. I was like my brother, an exercise teacher. I've been sick for 20 years. I have a mental state called schizophrenia. I've been to hospitals all my life, and only now I have found a job that helps me, and I'm proud of myself.
Nili Grossman is on the way to her weekly meeting with Kelev Tov, an organization that helps train Israelis with physical and mental disabilities to work with dogs.
The work gives me a purpose to wake up in the morning and wash my face and say, I'm alive, I'm going to work now. I walk for an hour a day with dogs.
What did you do before you started walking dogs?
That's the thing, I was hospitalized. I never had a job before. I have difficulty with boundaries. Sometimes I don't know how to behave properly.
You know, Nili, I think my favorite thing about you is that you always tell it as it is.
Yeah, exactly. I never have secrets.
Do I look pretty today?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, you put on makeup?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You say that's why. The videographer need to get a haircut?
No. I try to hold myself. I try to behave well. I try to behave normally. I want to be treated with respect. I want to be treated as a human being.
דיברנו על מצב שפשוט כלב נתקע בטיול ואין לנו דרך להזיז אותו.
Kelev Tov works with businesses and private people to help pair the organization's participants with dogs that they can walk.
I like Kelev Tov because it's a home. It's a place to meet people. It's a place to take care of dogs. It's a place to get paid. I get a salary.
מה קורה שהאדמה נרטבת?
אדמה רטובה? יש מה קשור משהו? Today we learned, I don't know, גיא, מה למדנו היום? שהכלב תקוע, מה עושים? So you give him snacks. We're going to Microsoft at 11:30. Each person gets its own dog, and I get the smallest one. It's easier to take care of. I try to do my hair the right way. I try to look presentable. I try to...
Hey, you want to grab my hand? So you can...
I like the way you hold me.
Yeah?
It makes me feel good.
Yeah? Okay.
Usually people, Israelis are very loving and caring.
Careful.
That's why I like Israeli people, because we have a lot of, how do you say, compassion?
Yeah.
שלום, נתנאל, היא עובדת פה? הוא עובד פה, אתה רוצה להופיע בטלוויזיה?
זה אחת האנשים הכי טובים שפגשתי.
תודה רבה. בעוד שעה, בשעה 1, תבוא לאסוף אותה. בואי פיקה, מה קורה לך היום? It's because of this. Take a picture of me doing this. זה אחד הדברים שהכי משמחים אותי.
Why?
Because I'm happy they released themselves. עצרי, שבי. בוא, אני בשבילה פיקה. Basically, humans, when I meet humans, they judge me. Dogs don't.
What an amazing story.
I love Neely. I can't wait for her to see the video.
Yeah, seriously.
All right, now.
Yeah. Israeli-American basketball coach David Blatt is making headlines. He's joining the New York Knicks, and no, he isn't going to be coaching this time around.
Instead, he's going to be a basketball consultant, and although this is exciting news for some fans, Blatt has also announced that he's officially retiring from coaching.
David Blatt has had a lengthy career coaching the Cleveland Cavaliers from 2014 to 2016 and even leading the team to the 2015 finals. And since June of 2018, he's been coaching the Greek team Olympiakos, but back in April, he received chilling news. The star coach was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, a condition that attacks the central nervous system and has been causing Blatt fatigue, weakness in his legs, and balancing problems. Well, it looks like the Israeli-American coach is still excited about his new gig. After being hired as a basketball operations consultant, Blatt took to social media to say that he has long been intrigued by working in a front office. It's not clear what exactly he'll be doing, though. Given his proximity to the team's current power structure, this could be an audition for the head coaching job in New York, even though he's supposedly retiring. Or it's possible that he's simply being brought in to help rebuild the Knicks. For now, though, the team is playing fairly well and just scored 143 points in a blowout win over the Atlanta Hawks.
All right, well, on that note, let's take a look at the weather forecast. Tonight, you can expect mostly clear to partly cloudy skies and an average low of 46 or 8 degrees Celsius. And then over the weekend, the skies should be clear and sunny with highs averaging at about 69 or 21 degrees Celsius. But now, before we say goodbye, we have an exclusive clip from the Star Wars film that is coming out this weekend.
Check it out. Well, 613 is the name of the musical a cappella group here. And as you can see, Hanukkah and Star Wars have never been so alike.
No response to this one. All right, that is it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.49 shekels to the American dollar. For more news from ILTV, please like ILTV on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube. I'm Natasha Kirchuk.
And I'm Aaron Porras. Thank you so much for watching.